This definitely feels like a haul on haul video as opposed to a book wrap up, but I ruin everything. Hi guys, welcome back. 2 videos in a row. You guys are so blessed right now. Let's just quickly get into my May wrap up. I don't know how many books I read this month. I will do some sort of tally at the end probably, but it was a lot. It was a lot more than I thought it was as the month was progressing. So let's start. Today we are starting with my DNFs, and then I'm just going to go chronologically what I started May with and what I finished May with. So the first 2 books I DNF'd. First one is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Yeah, she is. This book is a memoir about grief surrounding the loss of a mother, and I got up to chapter 4. So I got 35 pages into this book, and I don't remember what I read before it, but when I started this, it just wasn't the vibe. I wasn't in the mood for it. I was going to try and push myself, but I just didn't really want to. So this is a soft DNF. I'm not unhauling this. I will probably read it again someday, or attempt to read it again someday. That day is just not today. The other book, however, is going to be unhauled. It's called It Came from the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror. So this is an essay collection written by a bunch of queer and trans authors, and how their experience with being a queer or trans person has related to their love or hatred of horror movies. As someone who loves horror movies, I thought this could be a potentially interesting collection, could open up my eyes to the way that queer people are or aren't represented in horror movies. However, I got, I want to say like 10 essays into this, and there was only one of them where I saw a very definite connection between the author's experiences and horror movies. All the other essays, it kind of felt like they were grasping for straws, talking about things that weren't really directly involved with horror movies. Maybe I was just not in the mood to pay attention. I don't know what it was. Maybe this book is just not the book for me. Like, it's not written for me. I'm not a queer person.
Straight as a dick.
So I DNF'd it, and I'm going to unhaul it. Someone else out there is probably going to love this book and get so much from it. That person is not me, unfortunately. Let's get into what I read, what I finished. But it's a mixed bag, guys. It's a mixed bag. First, I have got The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. Now, I've only ever read one T. Kingfisher book apart from this one. I was intrigued by this one. It follows a girl whose grandmother has passed. She goes to her grandmother's house, finds out she's a hoarder, tries to start cleaning up the house, but then finds out that things around the house, surrounding the house, weird vibes. Like hills that appear out of nowhere, creepy noises from outside the house at all hours of the night. It is very magical realism, I guess you would say, with a little bit of folk horror. Neither of those things particularly appeal to me, and it's so frustrating because this is the second T. Kingfisher book where I've liked the writing style, I liked the narration style, I didn't like the plot, which is kind of a problem. I didn't like where this book went, I didn't like how it ended, so I'm going to unhaul it. It wasn't a bad book by any means, but I don't need it on my shelves. I'm never going to read it again, and I'm never going to think of it again. So this was not a bad book, but it does not belong on my shelves. Next, I read Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. This book is definitely what I would call a fever dream horror. There is a plot. We are following a teenage girl. She has been kidnapped by one of her teachers. We find out throughout the book why that is. And it also follows a bunch of girls, including the kidnapped one before she's kidnapped, daring each other to do crazy things, believing in creepypastas, kind of creating their own religion / cult. And there is a storyline and there is a plot, and it does make sense, but it is written in a way where it just feels like you are on this roller coaster, you can't get off, and you're just going to have to enjoy the ride. I liked it. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I feel like a lot of people would probably get bored because it is a bit of a slow read, but there was something about this book that I enjoyed, and I am going to keep it. So I might not keep it forever, but it's not currently going into my unhaul pile. Next, I read, finally, Monstrilio by, oh my gosh, I've never even looked at this author's name, Gerardo Simano Cordova? Pronunciation queen. Who is she? This book, everyone knows about this book. Everyone who reads horror has heard about this book. This book follows a woman whose son dies at a very young age due to lung problems. She decides, once he's passed, to save a piece of his lung, and she just keeps it initially, and then she ends up feeding the lung, and the lung grows, and from the lung becomes Monstrilio. I did not think this book was horror by the end. It was more about human nature and family than horror. I can understand there were some horrific scenes, there were some gory scenes, especially if you cannot deal with animal deaths on page. Probably don't pick this one up, but it didn't scare me. It made me sad and hopeful and depressed. But it was an amazing book. I gave it 5 stars. Then I picked up In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. This was actually a pick by my brother. I did the thing where I said, hey, out of all these books, pick one for me to read, and he picked this one, so I read it. We are following a Japanese tour guide. He does not do normal tour guides. He takes tourists on tours of like the sex parts of the city, the strip clubs, the brothels, the internet cafes that exclusively show porn, those sorts of places. And he takes on this American tourist, and very quickly our poor little tour guide starts to think that maybe there is something not quite right with this American tourist. And there was one scene that I was not expecting, because most of this book is not horror, it's like tense. There's an uneasiness, but there was this one scene where like shit just hit the fan, and you know, I didn't see it coming. I enjoyed it. I'm going to keep it. Now, you guys will probably not know this because I haven't filmed anything for about 6 months, 7 months. But I was slowly making my way through some Lauren Asher books. So I'd read the first 2 books in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I decided it was time to just finish the series off. So I read Final Offer. First thought was, why does a contemporary romance book need to be this long? However, did I enjoy every single second of it? I definitely did. This book, I think, was a 5-star. We follow the last Kane brother. His name was Cal, and we follow Alana. Now, they were kind of not high school sweethearts, but they were teenage sweethearts. And then one day, Cal's addictions got the best of him, and he broke up with Alana and said, I'm never coming back here. I will never see you again, because he isn't good for her. He knows he's not good for her. He knows his addictions are a problem. So he decides to do what's best for both of them, or so he thinks, leaves her, and then years later has to come back because his grandfather's will says, you need to live in the house and sell it by the end of the summer. Little does Cal know, Alana already lives there. So this is a forced proximity, second chance romance. And it was beautiful. I think the ending was maybe a little bit too easy, but I still loved it. So Lauren Asher is probably a new author by author for me. Just saying. Did I tell you guys I'm seeing Hadestown tonight for the 2nd time? I'm very excited. Next, we have got Waiting for Ted by Marieke Big. This book was such a disappointment. Like, it is a very short book. This book follows a woman named Rosalind, and the entire book takes course over a couple of hours as Rosalind is waiting for Ted to get home from work. He's taking later than usual, and while she's waiting, she kind of goes through their entire relationship and basically everything that's happened in her life since they met up until this point. I was somewhat intrigued by this concept. The execution, however, just was not for me. None of the characters in this book are likable. There was not a single likable, redeemable character. Rosalind, Ted, Ted's family, Rosalind's family, her friends, the fucking shopkeeper. Like, there was not a single person in this book that I liked. Sometimes unlikable characters, kind of like Sally Rooney-esque unlikable characters, are interesting. These characters, I wanted them all to shut the fuck up. And then the book ended. And I was like, but is that literally what's happening? Or is that, you know, like a metaphor for what's happening? I don't know. And to be quite honest, I don't care. I am unhauling this book. I'm so sad that I hyped it up so much in my mind, because like it is such a cool cover, and like it does the thing, right? It's a cool cover. I will never pick it up again, except to put it back on my unhaul pile. I will probably never think of it again, because all the explanation I just gave you, I was grasping for straws to remember that that's what was happening in the book. So it doesn't need to be in my life anymore. Then I had a fun book. Now, I read this specifically because I believe his name is Morgan Davis.
His name is Davis Morgan, you fucking imbecile.
Can editing staff fact check that?
I did. You were wrong.
And he was explaining how much he enjoyed this book. And I've had it for a while, and I thought, what better time than now? So I started Foe by Ian Reid, and this was a good book. This was a good book. I enjoyed it. If I had to rank this, because I've read 3 Ian Reid books, if I had to rank this, it would be second, just below I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This book follows a married couple. They live on a farm, and how much do I want to say? They get a stranger, a visitor, in the middle of the night come up to their farm and say to Junior, the husband, hey, crazy story, you've randomly been selected to go to space, so your whole life is going to change now. And change their life does. Now, something about this book that kind of skewed my enjoyment a little bit is I knew what was happening from way too early on. I totally clocked like almost the entire plot, but it was still a good book. I enjoyed it. I really felt for the characters. I felt Junior's confusion throughout the entire book, and I felt Hen's frustration and built up resentment. It was a really interesting book. I just wish that I hadn't been so switched on while I was reading it, but I still enjoyed it, so I would still recommend it. I just ruined it for myself. Then I decided to give the newest Frida book a try, so I picked up The Tenant. First thoughts. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more than The Crash, that's good. But unfortunately, this book kind of just felt like elements from every single one of Frida's other books mushed into one. And that's not a bad thing if you're looking for a comfort read, or you kind of feel like rereading something but not rereading something. This is probably a great book for that if you're a Frida fan. It just didn't feel new. It didn't feel original, and that was kind of disappointing. I still enjoyed it. This basically follows a guy named Blake, and when this book starts, his life is as good as it can be. He's living the perfect life, has a fiance, beautiful apartment, great job, and very, very quickly everything starts to unwind and fall apart. And the book basically follows him trying to figure out, like, how did my life become this? Like, how did it get like this so quickly? And the only thing he can think of is, it must be the new tenant who I've invited to live with me and my fiance. That's all I'm going to say. But I was discussing this book with one of my friends, and we were both very much like, we knew exactly what was happening, because Frida, she's getting a little bit predictable. So I wouldn't recommend this and say it's amazing. If you've never read a Frida book, this could be a good one to start with. Like, it was a good book. I do think I might be taking a break from the Frida books for a while, which is actually really sad. I love Frida McFadden as an author. I think her books are fun. They're a little bit mindless. They're a little bit silly. Definitely have to suspend your disbelief, because her books, they would not hold up in real life. But I think I just need a break, because I think with the consistency that I've been reading them, even reading like 1 a year, 2 a year, I think it's just too much. So I'm probably going to take a tiny step back from Miss McFadden, but I still definitely recommend her to especially newer thriller authors.
She meant new thriller readers.
Go for your life. You'll have so much fun. I then picked up a collection that I haven't owned for very long, but that has been in the back of my mind since I was probably like 10, and it is called Tales of the Unexpected by Mr. Roald Dahl. Now, don't know how many people know this, but Roald Dahl wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, the BFG, also wrote short stories for adults, and some of them are quite intense, some of them are just like a little bit of fun. All of these stories had twist endings, because that's what connected all the stories. There were definitely a couple stories where I guessed the ending because I knew it had to be a twist ending, but for the most part, this was a really fun collection. I think I gave it a 4-star average. I love Lamb to the Slaughter. That is still a like all-time favorite short story, which my mum introduced me to when I was way too young. But there were a couple of other ones I enjoyed. I really liked Parson's Pleasure. That one made me chuckle. The Way Up to Heaven, good story. The Landlady, interesting. Overall, they were really fun stories, so I would recommend this if you are trying to get into short stories but don't really know where to start. Anyway, Roald Dahl's book, very interesting. Next, I think I have what was potentially my favorite book of the month. I think it was. And it was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. If you guys watched my last video, you will know that this book Good time. We follow a family of 4, so father, son, daughter, son, living on an Antarctic island, and their main job on the island is to basically protect these seeds for every plant species on Earth. In case something happens and we lose plants, they have these seeds to kind of repopulate, and that's fine. The weather's getting terrible, they definitely can't stay there much longer, but then a woman washes up on shore and they don't know why she's there, and she doesn't really trust this family, so it's kind of the family learning to trust her learning to trust them, and kind of bring them back together as a family. It was a beautiful book. I have one criticism, and that was that it made me cry. How dare. But I would highly recommend this book. Again, it is more of a slower book. It is very setting focused. Like, this book finished. I'm not a setting person. I could read an entire book of dialogue and monologue, and I don't give a shit about settings. This book ended, and I actually googled which island this was supposed to be set on because I was interested. It was actually based on Macquarie Island. So I did a little bit of research. Macquarie Island had a research centre like it did in this book. It was a very interesting time for me. But I gave this 5 stars. This 5 stars is why I now purchased Once There Were Wolves. I don't know who I'd recommend this to. People that just like books, people that like good books, people that like emotions and like character studies. The next book I have is Baby Teeth. This book has just been described as daughter is evil, mum doesn't know why. That's basically what this book is. It was a little bit frustrating. We are obviously following a woman named Suzette who has a husband, I think his name is Alex, yes, and their daughter Hannah, who is a little demon child.
Burn the child.
Hannah loves her daddy. She doesn't love her mummy though, because her mummy takes her daddy away from her. And you're reading from Hannah's point of view. She's a child. She's like 6 or 7. But she's definitely got problems. I felt so bad for Suzette. Like, talk about an ununited front between her and Alex. Alex frustrated me. Like, he was a good guy, but he frustrated me as a character, as a husband. You know the husband in horror movies who's like, oh babe, you're just tired. That was him, and I didn't like it, but I did enjoy this book. This book was fine. The problem was the sequel, Dear Hannah. This book, now I understand technically these are not books in a series. This is a standalone, and this is a standalone that follows the characters from this book. I understand that they're not a series. That's how I ended up purchasing this book first, and then realizing this book came first and having to buy this one. But this is a loose sequel. We are following Hannah when she is older. She is married and she has a stepdaughter of her own. This book, it was a bit boring. Now, at the time, I was kind of vibing, but when I put them next to each other, I don't know why this book exists. Hannah, she was still lying and scheming and manipulating people to get her way, but that could be anyone. We see Suzette and Alex very briefly. There's mentions of things in here, which I'm not going to get into because they kind of feel like spoilers, but this was another book where I knew it was happening from pretty early on, because as someone who reads thrillers, it was just a very obvious, like, I don't want to say what happened. I'm going to put a tiny spoiler here. It does the thing where our main character is interacting with someone who doesn't exist. Like, that happens all the time. Like, I know that plot twist. So it was so easy to pick up in this book. I wouldn't recommend this. Do you know what? I'm going to be really, really controversial. I think I'm actually going to unhaul this book because I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was going to keep it because I was keeping Baby Teeth, but do I need to keep both of them? I don't think so. I think this is probably going to get unhauled. Goodbye, Hannah. Next, I have another short story collection, Your Utopia by Bora Chung. You guys probably don't know, but I did read Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung a couple of months ago, and I really enjoyed it. But I heard a lot of people say that Your Utopia is definitely a little bit more accessible, definitely has Black Mirror vibes. So I thought that this would be the collection I preferred. Not really. This collection, it was very, yes, Black Mirror, but also Black Mirror's USS Callister. There were quite a few short stories in this that dealt with alien planets and new species and starships, and sci-fi is not my vibe. There were a couple of other stories that were more my speed, but I do actually think Cursed Bunny is a stronger collection. Controversial opinion though it may be, but I mean, I still enjoyed it. Bora Chung definitely writes stories about whatever, but at the very core, they are just about humans. Humans and their feelings and their mistakes. And I enjoy her as an author, but yeah, Curse Bunny was definitely a bit better in my opinion. I did read a lot of short story collections this month. Where did they all come from? Then I read what at this point in the month was my most disappointing read, and it is called Case Study by Graham McCrae Burnett. This book's summary, the way it is pitched by people and on the back of the book, is that we are following a woman whose sister commits suicide, and it seems very out of character. This woman then finds out her sister was seeing a therapist leading up to her suicide and starts to think that maybe the therapist pushed her to commit suicide. So she decides she's going to come up with a fake name and she's going to see this therapist herself, talk about how she's feeling, and see if the therapist pushes her towards suicide at all. That's not what this book is about. That pitch was very interesting. That is why I purchased this book. It is not what the book is about at all. We are following, I think she goes by Rebecca, the main character whose sisters died. Her alias is Rebecca. This is about Rebecca being essentially a really boring, shitty human being. She's not enjoyable to read about. She's very vapid. She tries, this whole thing, right, is to see if this therapist is pushing people to suicide. We never get an answer to that question, first of all, but she stops having that as her goal and she kind of just goes to these sessions to like fuck with him basically, and to put on this persona of Rebecca, because by the end of this book she is Rebecca. She has become this persona that she originally created just to see this therapist. It was just bizarre. And in between all these therapy sessions, we've got like a biography of the therapist himself. It was such a strange book. It did not feel like the back of the book and what's inside the book matched. I don't know who to recommend this to. This, I think, was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, or longlisted for the Booker Prize. I don't know why. If anyone out there has read this and enjoyed this, please explain.
Please explain.
Because I don't get it. And I didn't enjoy it. And it was a slog to get through. So it is going to be on hold. Fortunately, the next pick was a lot better. It was The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This book was a wild ride. It was a trip. This is very much Black Mirror. We are following a lovely woman named Evelyn whose husband has left her. Crazy thing, her husband's left her for her clone. Her husband created a clone of Evelyn because he doesn't like that Evelyn has her own thoughts and her own personality and her own opinions. So he divorces her, creates a clone of her, and then gets the clone pregnant, which should be physically impossible. So that's what this book is about. It was fun, lots of gore, lots of treachery, and it was just interesting. I don't want to say anything because it could be misleading, but this book to me was just very cyclical and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. Like, it's not a new all-time favorite, but I liked it a lot. So it is staying with me forever. Then I read the worst book of the month. I gave this book a 1 star. If it was possible on Goodreads, I would have given it a 0.5. I despise this book. I am unhauling this book. I don't even want to show you this book. It is called Coupe de Grace by Sophia Ajram. I don't know what this book was trying to be. This book is about a man who is on a train, starts on a train, basically heading towards his own suicide. Like, he's decided he's going to get this train to the beach and then kill himself. But when he gets off the train, he is at an infinite, endless train station. Liminal space. Very horror. No, it wasn't though. This book, it made no sense. It made sense. I understand that him being stuck in this train station was him being stuck in his own depression. I'm not completely stupid. I understood that. The writing in this book made 0 sense. I'm so sorry to this author because I'm about to rip you a new one. This book felt like the author put the entire book through a thesaurus app. Because none of the words in this book make sense contextually. It is so, like, I understand purple prose and flowery writing and, like, long-winded descriptions. This book was all of that and so much more. There was one paragraph where I had to read it about 3 times to try and understand what she was describing. Now, this is a tiny book. This book, I think the audiobook was like 5 hours, 4 hours. It took me about twice as long to finish it because I didn't. And he was such an unlikable character. Oh my gosh. And I'm spoiling this book because I actually don't give a shit. I do not want anyone to read this book. Like, I do not recommend this to a single person, except for those that maybe hate themselves and enjoy wasting time. The ending of this I actually don't know how. The ending of this book, okay? We've, this entire time, just been following this sad little man stuck in this infinite train station, trying to, like, physically find a way out of this train station, okay? Which isn't actually a train station because there's, like, kiosks and there's rooms and there's a pool. Whatever. I don't care. The book at the very end, I shit you not, turns into a choose your own adventure. Like, what? I will read you verbatim, right? Maybe I'm a little high from chugging river water. Maybe I'm tired of taking my own bad advice. Either way, you know what? Fuck this. I'm tired. Jesus, take the wheel. Treat this like a coin flip, or if you want, like a video game. What should I do next? And it gives you 3 options. Basically, anytime you choose an option that is not the nice, easy thing, the main character berates you, which personally, so you can choose. There's an option where you can just choose for the character to literally just lie down on the ground and give up and just let the train station destroy him. If you choose that and you flip to that page, it says, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You like making people miserable? You like seeing people make themselves miserable? I bet you went to Rotten.com as a kid. You're a perverted jackass who should have your head examined. You're the type to watch animals corralled in a zoo enclosure, flinging shit at each other, screeching when kids flirt. And it's a whole page being like, you're a fucking terrible person. I'm sorry. While this made, it's just a book, right? Don't take it too seriously. I don't read books to be abused by the author. Okay? I don't read books. I don't force myself to get through shitty books just to have an ending that is, it's such a cop-out. It's such a lazy way to finish a book, of an author being like, I don't know how I'm going to end this book. Do I want it to end happy? Do I want it to end sad? You know what? I'll let the reader decide, but if they pick something sad, then I'll call them an asshole. This book can go fuck itself. This book actually, like, fuck this book, okay? I don't give a fuck about this book. I'm so sorry to this author. Actually, you know what? I'm probably not. I would recommend it to people for the simple fact that after they finish it, I want to have someone to talk shit with. I hated this book. I fucking hated this book. The next book we have is one that I really enjoyed while I was reading it. I happily put back on my shelves when I finished, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking I might maybe unhaul it. It is called Don't Eat the Pie by Monique Asher. This book was a little bit of gothic fun. We are following a woman named Sam and her daughter Emma. Now, Sam has just remarried quite a rich, well-off man, and his mother gets sick, so Sam takes herself and Emma to this very small island where they kind of nurse his mother back to health, and Emma gets to meet some new people, and straight away the vibes in this town are off. This book is very like Rosemary's Baby mixed with We Came to Welcome You, right? And I enjoyed it while I was reading it, and I was happy once I'd finished it. I'm starting to become a little bit selective with what books I keep on my shelves, and I don't think this book impacted me enough or is going to be memorable enough that I want it on my shelves forever. But I enjoyed it. It was still a good book. Maybe, I don't know. This is going to be in a maybe pile. I'll keep it for now, but I can't promise it'll be on my shelves forever. It was just fun. It was good, gothic, pregnancy horror fun. Next, I have another short story collection, which is Dead Relatives by Lucy McKnight Hardy. All of these short stories deal with death, whether it's murder or sickness or organized crime. All of them deal with like murder or death, and I enjoyed most of them. There were some that were really fun. Oh my gosh, Cavities. Cavities was a pretty fun story because as I was reading it, I was planning to go to the dentist. It was just a relatable moment in my life. Anyway, I would recommend this for the morbid girlies. It was good. I don't know how to explain short story collections, but I did read it and I enjoyed it enough to keep it. So that's probably all you guys really need to know. Then I read an essay collection by an author whose surname I'm going to butcher. Her name is Anna Bogotskia, and it's called Feeding the Monster: Why Horror Has a Hold on Us. Now, I was going to keep this book, but you know what? This is really confusing. I gave this 2 stars and I still was going to keep it. I think maybe because it's a hardcover and because the end pages I just have little flies and are really cute. I will probably actually unhauling this book. But it basically follows different emotions that people feel when watching horror movies. So we've got fear, anxiety, hunger, pain, and power. And this, I think, oh, I just remembered why I wanted to keep it. There's a list of movies at the end, a watch list that the author has put together for us. That's the only reason I wanted to keep it. It definitely discusses so many horror movies, and that was really fun. Recognizing horror movies that I'd seen and being like, oh my god, I remember that scene. Oh, that's how I felt. Like, I remember that. But as someone who loves horror, I didn't need the emotions associated with horror explained to me. So this is probably not a book for horror lovers. It's probably a book for people that are trying to get into horror or that want to give horror a chance. Because for me, it was kind of, you know, you're preaching to the choir. Like, I love horror for all the reasons you're explaining, and I don't need them explained to me. But yeah, that's so sad. I'm just going to take photos of the watch lists at the end, and I'm probably going to unhaul this. But it was still well written. It was just, it wasn't the book for me. Then I picked up A Gorgeous Excitement by Cynthia Weiner. Weiner. This is set in the 80s. We are following our main character, Nina. She is a virgin. She's quite like a normal girl. She's just graduated high school, but she becomes infatuated with the boy, the very popular boy in this area. She becomes friends with a coke fiend, and her mother's mental health is spiraling. So we just follow Nina over the course of this summer, where she's trying to maintain this new friendship, get this guy to fall in love with her, and also keep an eye on her mother's mental health. Now, what blew my mind about this book, and it's not a spoiler because there's an author's note at the very start, is that this book is based on the author's own experiences involving a murder that happens in this book. And the author explains, like, I was friends, like, I knew the murderer, like, I'd had drinks with him and his friends, and then we found out he killed a girl, and it made us wonder if we ever actually knew who he was. And after reading this book, I did some research on the actual true crime case. Blew my mind how close this book is written to the crimes. Obviously, I know that it is the author's own experiences that she's put into this book, but you know, there are a lot of fiction books based on true crimes where a lot of the details are changed. This was very true to real life, and I think that was maybe my favorite part, finishing the book and then going through the real life research and seeing how it all connected. But this was just, it was a very coming of age story about being a teenage girl in the 80s in New York City. What a wild time. I enjoyed it. I don't know who I'd recommend it to, but I did enjoy it. We are up to the last book. The last book I read was Only When It's Us by Chloe Lees. This was a fun book. This book follows a girl who plays soccer and a guy who's in her class, never talks to her, but has study notes, and she needs the study notes, so she has to talk to him. This book was fun, but also very confusing because the audiobook I listened to and the physical book I read did not match. So I think the author realized that she'd kind of butchered hearing impairment representation in her original copy. So she went back and reused it all, but the audiobook I had access to was the original. So I don't want to get into the specifics because they're very much prevalent to the plot later in the book. I enjoyed the original book more than the rewrite, so it's a bit confusion, but I did really enjoy this, and I am looking forward to reading the other books in this series, the Bergman Brothers series. So that's where we ended the month. I technically started reading another book at the end of May that I really, really want to talk about, but I did not finish it until the 1st of June, so it is going to have to wait till next month. This video is long, and I knew it was going to be long. I'm at 42 minutes of filming time right now. What else do I need to say? I'm seeing Hadestown tonight. I'm very excited. Anyways. Oh god. How fucking weird is it when people who always wear glasses take off their glasses? I'm getting really used to seeing myself in glasses now, and every time I take them off, I look like a child. Oh my god, it's lunchtime!